All right, we'll go ahead and get started. So, welcome. My name's Brian Peck. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Mazévo. I'm going to turn off my slide here so you can see us all a little bit better. Yeah, and welcome to Mazévo Connect. This is something that we do every single month here at Mazévo. Although you could, I guess, argue that we didn't do one last month. We're squeezing it in here to December because we're in that holiday season right now. But anyways, we love doing these. This is a great way for us to interact with everyone and try to help educate the Mazévo community on a variety of topics. Up here this month, we're going to be talking about our roadmap, kind of what we're planning for 2025. And yeah, so as far as what's going on for us right now, this is a busy time of year for us on the sales side at Mazévo. So Claire and I have definitely been busy because this is the time of year that a lot of folks are trying to figure out what they're going to be doing for next year and if they're going to be switching scheduling systems or making plans for that. So we have definitely been busy. That bodes well for next year. I think we're going to have another busy year as well as folks start to come on board. But the way that we're going to do this today, it's primarily going to be Dean and myself that are going to be going through a few topics here with everyone. This is definitely a topic that we really want to be interactive today because, like everything we do in Mazévo, we do not do this in a vacuum. It's all based on the feedback of our customers and what people are doing with the system and telling us that they're doing and the problems that they're trying to solve and that kind of thing. And so we have kind of coalesced around a certain number of themes and ideas that we've heard that we're going to be working on for next year. But at this point, nothing is really set in stone yet. There's still a lot of wiggle room as far as what direction we go with some of these themes. And so we're hoping that you can kind of help us with providing your feedback and insights on these things. So we definitely want to encourage people to participate today, whether that means if you're comfortable unmuting yourself to kind of share your thoughts that way. We love that. But also you can put your thoughts in the chat and the type chat here as well for the meeting, and we will see all of those that way as well. But yeah, I think this will be a good discussion for that kind of thing. Before we kick things off, I do want to introduce my colleagues that are on the call. You may have met some of them in the past, but I've got Claire DeGroat, who is an account executive with us on here. I've got Joe Finley, who's one of our software trainers, and Wendy Newland, who's also one of our software trainers. We also have Devin Jansen joining us today. Devin does our DevOps, which means he keeps our servers running and does a lot of the technical stuff kind of under the hood of Mazévo and keeps things running really well. So it's great to have him here. And then we also have Dean Evans, who's our CEO as well. So anyways, that'll be who we have here on the call. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and kind of get things going. Now, one thing I'll just kind of remind everybody of the big, I guess, perspective, I think you could call it, that we bring to Mazévo and the way we look at the software that we design is that everything we do is around the idea of just keeping things simple and as easy to use as possible, which can sometimes be challenging given that we deal with some very large, very complex organizations that have very big, disparate needs. And so trying to, serve all of those for everyone is a challenge, but it's also what kind of makes it fun for us as well to try to figure these things out. So I think you're going to see that today as we discuss some of these topics that we're working on. We're always trying to think, how do we streamline this a little bit more? How do we make it a little bit easier for somebody to figure out, especially those new users or people that just don't do events very much and they're just trying to get their job done. So that's a big thing for us, and so that's really where these themes have kind of come in. So one of the first things we're going to talk about here is through the topic of how do you onboard new users. Now, this doesn't just mean as a new customer to Mazévo. Several of you on the call have just, gotten Mazévo up and running in the last few months or earlier this year. So it's not just that. This is just also how do you onboard those people in your organization that are trying to to make a request for the first time, trying to use the system. They don't know how to access it, things like that. What we have noticed over the last few years, as our number of customers has increased and the number of Mazévo users has increased, that we see some things that have come out of that as well. When people don't know what to do or where to go, they actually end up reaching out to our support department at Mazévo. They just start Googling Mazévo and they're like, well, I'm supposed to go to Mazévo. Let me, find the company. And they come to us and they either request a demo, they submit a support ticket, things like that. And we just see a trend that's increasing over time. And that just makes sense. I mean, we looked just the other day in our database, we currently have over 180,000 Mazévo users out there. Those are actual Mazévo user accounts amongst all your organizations that are using the system. So that number is going to continue to grow and we'll continue to see that. So a big focus for us is how do we make this process easier? How do we make sure people are getting the help that they need, or at least knowing where to go and just doing what it is that they want to do. And so, one of the first things we've talked about is welcome email for new users. And Dean, do you want to kind of explain what we're thinking about there?
Yeah, I'll jump in with that. So there's a couple different things under this new user and giving guidance that we'd like to try to tackle. And one of them came from one of our customers. It's a great idea is when a new user logs in for the first time, send them an email. So let you guys configure the content of the email and whatever you want to put in there, links to policies, rules, whatever it may be. Um, you know, if you need help, things like that. So let you configure a welcome email for your users. And once they log in the first time, we'd send that email out that you've configured and give them, here's some resources on how to use Mazévo specifically for your installation. And I think that would help kind of under the spirit of trying to get these new users in there and things like that. So that is something we're going to look at. And it would probably be, your global administrator would go in and configure this email, probably under account settings. And then you get the body of the email and you'd configure whatever you want, put links in there to your documents, whatever it may be. And then we would just send that off the first time that user logs in, because we know their email and we'll send it off. So it seems like it'd be a pretty easy thing for us to get in there and it can help, right? So the other couple things, and I thought I'd show you some of these, um, is this concept, and Brian kind of alluded to it, of um, helping the user when they first get here. So there's a couple ways that you can log in to Mazévo, and this is an example of using what we call a vanity URL. And so we can actually create a unique URL up here, and this one's for Brian's demo, and it comes in like this. So when you go to that, instead of just saying go to my Mazévo and log in, you could say go to asu.mymazévo.edu or .com, and you would get to your customized screen. Now, what you can do with this is it's going to show your logo, and this text up here is in your control. So this welcome to Favor, that's Brian's demo system, and he's put this message in there. He's also got the ability to request an account. And so for the non-SSO folks on this call, request an account would be how can that user request an account, and you could go set their permissions. So this is how you would get in there and do that. Let me go ahead and just log in and show you. So at that point, you're in, it looks the same, nothing else changes here. But if you go in through this vanity URL is what we call it, here under account settings, there's this welcome message right here. And this is what's exposed when this vanity URL's turned on, and you can go in and configure this. So something to think about. There's currently a minor issue with this in conjunction with SSO. We're going to have that resolved real soon. so that you could actually use both of them. Right now, most people with SSO can't use this vanity URL, but we'll get that taken care of. So, um, the other thing Brian alluded to, let me go ahead and log out here and then go in is a normal. So this is the normal login page. And what we've got here is it's asking for a password. So if we put this link right here and trying to intercept your folks, your users that don't know how to log in. And so this actually takes them to a page uh, and they can fill out their information and most of the time that's cryptic. And then we turn right around and I see a few folks on the call here where we get that in as a support ticket and we turn right around and try to point them back internally to, either the primary contact, at your site, or if we know, the reservations email or something like that, we'll point them there. But most people that are trying to get in might click that. Now, the ones that don't see that, they're the ones that go out to our main marketing page and say, hey, I want to see a demo. So it's kind of interesting. They'll even pick up the phone and call us. We've had a few people just pick up the phone and call and I need to get in. It's like, oh, well, let me help you. So anyway, those are things we want to make that onboarding and getting into the system as smooth as possible. And so those are some ideas that we've got there. So, Brian?
Thanks, Dean. Yeah, so if anyone else has ideas, other things that you think could make that easier for your users in some way, we'd love to hear it. Doesn't matter how crazy it is. Big ideas, small ideas, we'll welcome all of them. But those are a couple of things that we're working on. I think we're going to be promoting using that vanity URL to our customers a lot heavier this next year. So if you're not using it already, please do reach out to us. It's really easy to turn it on. And like Dean said, it's probably going to be in the very early part of next year. We're going to have it worked out where if you are using single sign-on, that vanity URL will be something you can utilize as well. And I think that that'll help with some of this. So, um, anyways, so that's one thing. Again, put any feedback you have, whether you like this stuff, don't like it, doesn't matter. You can put that in the chat or unmute yourself here. We love the feedback. The next topic that I wanted to bring up that we're going to be working on is around making requests through Mazévo. So I think that's one of the biggest places that our customers see a lot of value out of Mazévo is letting people submit requests to you online. I know some of you that is like critical. That's how you function. Your whole business kind of runs around that. And a common theme over the last few years has been how do we let the requester do more once they're in the system? Whether that's updating their requests, making changes, submitting, if they want to get in the room earlier for setup, that kind of thing. It's all around that. So we've got a few ideas there that we want to share with you on allowing requesters to do more. Dean, do you want to talk to that?
Sure, sure. There's a couple things here under this request topic that we've heard several times. And one is, can the requester flag an event as public or private? And again, public and private really just deals with our public calendar and whether it goes out there. And I guess it would go all the way into like room signage. So if you had a room sign out in front of a room, we're not going to display the name of the event there. So currently, the only person that can set the flag public private is an event planner, and a requester can't do that. This one makes us a little nervous because if you've approved the event and they've got it marked public or private, and then they flip the flag, it's going to change it back into a pending status. And we're just, for some reason, do we want the requester setting the flag public and private? And would love to have any feedback on that. So feel free to unmute yourself and chime in. If you think we're being too cautious, I get it. But if anybody's got any thoughts on should a requester be able to change the public-private flag?
Yeah, it
This is
seems
where,
like this is something that some of you are asking people today. I've seen the question out there, do you want this event posted to the public calendar or, is this a private event? Something like that. So I think some of you are doing this. Would this be a welcome change for you, or are you pretty happy with the way that you're managing it currently?
Spencer has a comment.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I think the definition within Mazévo of public and private is very different from how majority of academic or student org world would use it. And that
Mm,
would make me very nervous that they would go off of their definition of, yes, this is a private club meeting, and then have 15 people who don't know where to go because it's not on the calendar,
Yeah.
or the room sign or whatever.
Yeah.
yeah. That's a
Okay.
great point. Yeah. How do you
Mhm.
communicate to people what it really means that this is a private event or a public event, right? Yeah, that's a great point.
Okay. And then there's the next thing in this requester area um, would be letting a secondary contact edit the request. So let me show you kind of what I'm talking about here. So again, I'm in here as a global administrator, but think of me as a requester. If I jump in here to my events and I click on one of these, I can set the secondary contact. Now, I've already done that just before this demo, uh, and I've set it to Claire. So we've heard a lot of people say, well, can the secondary contact edit this event? Currently, we only let the primary contact edit any of the details on this event. And again, we'd love to have you chime in on this. If we allowed it, if we went down the path of letting you let the secondary contact make the change, we're going to record all the history. So we would know Claire went in and changed this. As the primary, I'd probably be caught off guard if Claire's in there. There's a couple of things we have to worry about, and that is security. So the only way we would contemplate this is if Claire has the same security policy as I do. Okay. So this couldn't really be like a student, an advisor or something like that. So if Claire was the vice president of my basket weaving club, we'd probably have the same security policy, and it would make it easier to do changes. If you had totally different security policies, it's just going to be crazy if they're starting to make changes because Claire could change it and you might not be able to change it back. And then the other thing would be how do we turn that feature on or off? Do we let the primary contact set the flag that says, hey, I want Claire to be able to edit this event? Or do we do it at a policy level, something like that? Does anybody have any thoughts on allowing secondary contacts the ability to make changes to an event? We're going to get into some stuff that doesn't make you so nervous here in a minute, but don't.
It would help us at MIT with a lot of times we have administrative assistants that are put on as secondary contacts for an event for a professor or conference services, which are working multiple people on one event. So the ability to kind of hand stuff off or pass stuff off and make edits and changes would be beneficial to our clients for the most part.
Okay. Okay. Would you want it at like the policy level? So anybody that's in the faculty policy, um, anybody tied to that, those type of users automatically would get the secondary contact to be able to to make changes? Or would you expect it event by event? I'm the primary, I'm putting it in, and I've selected my secondary. Would you want them to answer a question? Yeah, let my secondary change it. I mean, any thoughts on that?
For us, I don't think it's that important. I think if they're taking the time to select a secondary, they're working on it and they're kind of in the mix.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Anybody else on any thoughts on that?
Oh yeah. There's a lot of
That's action.
comments rolling in. Um, Overall, the very positive on this one, it sounds like. Um, And then, you know, Spencer's saying, yeah, they might not even have that need. So having it so you could turn it on or off is
Yeah.
good. I also saw a comment in here too that was interesting, which is, you know, could you notify the primary contact if their secondary contact made a change? So just, you know, let them know somehow.
Yeah,
Um,
we could look at that.
yeah.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
okay.
All
Yeah.
right.
Awesome. Love the feedback. This is exactly what we were hoping for here. So thank you everyone for this. We do save these chats afterwards too, so it doesn't just disappear in the ether once the webinar is over. So this is good stuff. So, all right. Um, on the theme of requesting, another thing that we've heard, this comes up somewhat regularly, but nobody's really pressed us on it too hard. But the regularity of it coming up, we really have decided this is something we want to look at, and it's around external customers submitting requests through Mazévo. So now we typically hear this a lot on the sales side before somebody's even bought Mazévo. They're like, "Hey, what do we do with our you know, external folks and things like that?" Um, However, I do know that some of you are allowing customers today. So these are people like not affiliated with your organization, outside community groups, whoever it is. And maybe for some that use your space regularly, you just go ahead and give them a login to Mazévo, right? So we're thinking of ways in that we could help that process a little bit because it is a little cumbersome to have to give somebody a login if they're not even a member of your organization or a student or staff member or whatever. So how can we make that easier and create some kind of a public request form? This is another one that we're kind of a little fuzzy on. I think the needs will kind of be, maybe there'll be a spectrum of needs out there around this. So, Dean, do you want to kind of fill in a little bit of the details there?
Yeah. So let's just wave the magic wand and say an anonymous user on the internet found the link to get to Mazévo from your website that says go make a request here. Um, the question is, what kind of information do we need to gather? We need to know the date, the time, potentially a location that they want for their event. We'd also need to know what their organization is. And again, they're going to have to key that in. You're not going to let them pick from a list of organizations because that's your entire customer list. So we'd have to prompt them for, well, who are you with? Oh, well, I'm with the Elks Club. And, my name's Dean Evans, and here's my phone and my email and all of that information, enough for you to build an organization and or a contact record. We'd have to gather that in this special holding area. If we let them make a request, it's got to be, it may just have to be really dumbed down and just what room or rooms do you think you want? We don't want it to hold the space like a traditional request does today. This is an external request that you need to really go in and look and go, are we even going to let them use the facility? And while you're looking, you don't want them holding space. So that's kind of our thought is um, that you would, it just kind of, we just gather information like your form does today and store it and then let you grab it and process it and either create an organ of contact and then push it in and create an event for them. But while it's sitting there unprocessed, it wouldn't show up on your as an event. It's not in there. It's in a special holding area. So, and along with that would be, well, we've heard people say they want the event book exposed to this external user. And so that one, that gets me a little nervous too, from the standpoint of, well, there are rooms in your facility you don't want them seeing. Is it in use or is it available? So we'd almost have to have a security policy that says, well, the rooms on this policy are the ones that we're going to expose through this unauthenticated user process if you wanted that. I mean, it would make sense to maybe turn off the event book, say we don't even want to show it, or we just want to, see the form and gather information. So Um, any thoughts on would that help? Would it hurt?
Mhm.
Again, we're, exposing your availability publicly out on the internet may make you nervous. I mean, you'd have to put the link on your website to get them in there. And then you'd have to configure a policy if we go down this path, um, of what rooms they could see if you're going to show them availability. Other than that, it would just be a form, hey, I want to put in a request for space. Um, anyway, I'll let you guys key in comments, unmute yourself if you're passionate about this. Um, so
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of comments here. Definitely would need to be something that people can turn off or on. A lot of folks are not in the business of soliciting, external folks to their facility. So you'd need to be able to turn that off. Definitely, that's coming through there. I don't think I see much on the reservation book side. People do like, there are a few that like the having the option of gathering information,
yeah,
using it as an information gathering form. That's kind of where we see it. It's like it could be a little more efficient for you if at least you've gathered the information and it's already in Mazévo somehow. So you don't have to rekey that stuff in if you do decide to rent space to them or whatever. So yeah, I think that would be good there.
yeah. I mean, you could also, if we've gathered this information, you could also, you know, uh, start reminding the event planner slash global admins, hey, you haven't processed this request. You've got somebody that may be wanting to spend money with your organization, and you'd want to kind of react to it from a sales perspective. So you could kind of put a bell and whistle in there to, hey, so nobody's processed that event.
Mhm.
Um, all of this stuff, I mean, everything we've talked about so far, you would need the ability to turn these things on or off or set them. We're not going to just turn this thing on willy-nilly and it's exposed. You'd have to go in and do some kind of configuration to say, I want to expose this feature. And then we give you the link, and that's what you would put on your website. And then, yeah, you could turn it off if it's not working. So, um, anyway, so
Good stuff. Yep. Yeah. A lot of great feedback there as well. I don't, unless I missed one, I didn't see anybody that wants to be able to expose the event book. So if I missed your comment, I apologize. But yeah, that seems to be the way people are leaning right there.
yeah,
Um,
okay.
okay. All right. Another theme. This is a rather big theme, so I'll just kind of start off with that. We hear the way we hear it a lot on this side, on the Mazévo side, we hear something expressed all around the with the terms of, do you integrate with Outlook? Do you integrate with Google Calendar? And that's usually how it comes out to us. So, well, what does that mean is the next question, because you could go in a lot of different directions, I guess, with that. But that's something that we're hearing about. So what we typically hear when we dig into that a little bit more is that folks want an easy way to have their event show up in their personal Outlook or Google Calendar. So say I've scheduled an event in Mazévo of some kind, and now I just want to get that onto my calendar. We're hearing that kind of more and more, just give them an easy way to do that. Mazévo has had a way for some time to download an ICS file onto people's calendars, but it hasn't been the easiest to find. I think a lot of people didn't even know it existed personally. So we're doing some things to try to make that a little bit more obvious to folks. But that's one thing that we hear when people say they want Google or Outlook integration. Another thing that we hear from some folks is that they want a way, an easy way to book a room from just Outlook or Google. So don't make me go to Mazévo and log in and all that stuff. I just want to do it in Outlook, or whatever. So we hear that, and that's something that's come up. Another one, it's kind of related to the previous one. There is like sometimes we see an entire campus has made the decision, like the president's office or the provost or somebody has said, we're going to get on one scheduling system for the entire organization, the entire university, whatever. And we want everybody on one system. But then they quickly find out that half their university uses Google or Outlook to schedule all of their rooms, and they get a ton of pushback. So they say, well, can't you just make Mazévo work with Outlook and make all those people happy? So we hear that a little bit as well. What we don't typically hear, and I would love to hear, if you agree with some of these things or not, but what we haven't really heard is that I'm trying to plan a major event for my organization and I want to do it all in Outlook. We don't hear that. We People usually understand that it's like, no, we're going to go to Mazévo for that, and we totally are fine with that. The other thing we don't hear is that I want to check people's free busy availability at the same time I'm trying to book a room in Mazévo. So I want to see, is Bob available for this meeting? Is Wendy, and then also book the room at the same time. We're not hearing that either. So let us know your thoughts. How do you feel about these things? Would you agree with any of them? Because it comes up pretty regularly for us. So we think there is a pretty good need out there to tie into these systems in some way, but we still just need some more clarity on what that really means. Does anybody have any passion on that? I would ask. And Dean, do you have anything to add to that one? Or
Yeah, I'll throw a couple of things out. One, I'll throw the things we can do right now and what the easier ones that we're gonna put in there. So Brian said the ICS file. So if you're a requester in the last release, we put the little icon right here. So if I click that, it's going to download an ICS file for the meeting that I've got. Prior to this, you had to come over here and it was on this page where you could request it. So we've just moved it to where it's literally on that first page. We also are probably going to, when you send a confirmation to your customer, there may be a checkbox there that says include an ICS file so that you could just check the box, probably default it to on. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't send them one, but you still need the control of whether you want to do it or not. That would be another place to put it. And then recently, we've got an option that says when a requester creates a new event, send them an email that we got their request. And I refer to that as, hey, I got your order, right? So we got your request. We could put it on that email as well. Part of me wonders are you just spamming them? Because after you've created a request, you end up at my events. And there's a big green bar at the top that says, we got your request. And here's the request that they have right here. So it's like, I'm not sure why you'd want to turn on the email, but we've had people say, hey, I want to tell them we got their order. So those are the things we can do right now. Kind of my thoughts on Outlook in general is going back to what Brian said at the very beginning, we want to kind of keep this really simple. And we think that the interaction, when you install and bring Mazévo up, there's very little interaction short of turning on SSO and getting that configured. We don't really need to deal with your IT department team very much. As soon as you open the door to Outlook, the security gods over in IT are going to be like, whoa, so there'll be more interaction with the IT folks, security wise, what are we doing, and things like that. So we just want to minimize that as much as we possibly can. So right now, again, that ICS file is pretty common practice out there. Anybody can do that, but just kind of keep that in mind. The tighter we integrate, the more the IT department is going to need to give their blessing and get us, connections and security to get in there and read that stuff. So, anyway, any thoughts on Outlook Google integration in general?
Yeah, there's some good comments coming in here. Sydney brings up a good point. It's like, yeah, now what happens if the event's canceled? Is that going to automatically take it off somebody's calendar, right? And so that's a whole nother can of worms right there, but it's a valid point and something that I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on because uh, an ICS calendar is just kind of a one-way thing. It's just a little file and you put it on your calendar and it's going to stay there forever until you go. If you have to remember to go in and pull it off your calendar, change it or whatever. And, are people going to remember to do that? So, we really don't have a way unless you just massively make it much, much more complex. There's really no way to keep a user's Outlook calendar in sync with Mazévo. Um, we tried that a little bit at EMS way back in the day, and it's not for the faint of heart. It's heavy, heavy IT involvement. It's a lot of work to keep all of that in sync, and it's still you have a problem communicating it correctly to your end users. So that makes us nervous right there. But yeah, it's like I think personally that the ICS file, it's a common enough thing these days that I think a lot of people are used to knowing how that works. This is just a, one-time thing. I'm putting it on my calendar. It's not in sync with anything else, but I could be wrong there. I don't know. If you have thoughts on that one way or the other, please do share them with us. But yeah, that's what we're seeing. Right. Uh, let's see, anything else with the outlook? Yeah. So here's just a question for folks, just in general. So I've read through your comments here. Does this sound like for those of you on the call something that would excite you to have a better integration with Outlook, Google, or is it like, not that big of a deal? Let us know in the chat there. All right. Next one, theme that we're hearing, approvals. So, as many of you know, and many of you are using them on this call right now, Mazévo has a built-in approval workflow mechanism that you can use. And it's really, we call them secondary approvals. It's really a way to manage when there are multiple people that need to sign off or give approval for an event before it can happen. Mazévo's got some tools to help you manage all of that in the system. One of the themes that we're hearing, it's coming up a lot recently, say in the last 6 months or so, is this idea of risk management. A lot of organizations have a whole office or department dedicated to risk management. And if a event is going to happen on campus or whatever it is, then there's a risk management process or vetting that goes through. And that typically has to do with things like alcohol. Will there be minors? Will there be food served? Things like that. And if the answer to any of that is yes, then there's this whole other bunch of things that needs to happen. And so we're kind of seeing that some folks are saying they want Mazévo to handle that a little bit more than it already does today. But we're not really sure yet what that would look like or what that would mean. So if anybody has any thoughts on that, if your organization has a process like that and you think being able to manage that more in Mazévo would help, let us know. But Dean, do you have anything to add to that?
No, it's just kind of my thought on this. When I hear these people from the risk departments explain this, we've had a couple of folks say, well, we want the student or the user to book the space and hold it. And then we need 3, 6 months, something like that. I mean, it's a long period of time to go through this risk analysis. And it seems like the event questions, they don't know the answer. Am I going to serve food? Well, I don't know. I'm planning something. They're still in the planning process, and I'm trying to plan an event for 6 months from now outside on the lawn. Not sure I'm going to have money for food. Don't know what we're going to do, but you told me to book the space and start the approval process. So I see that the event questions as we have them today would need to get really beefed up, and you could ask them at any time and trigger them. And I'm just wondering, I mean, asking them all up front is just going to frustrate your user. It's like, well, I'm not going to serve food. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. Why are you asking me all these questions? And then these universities that have this risk process in place, they force the student to go over there and answer the questions again. So it seems like it's a ebb and flow of, well, you told me you were going to do an event outside with food. What kind of food are you going to have? You going to cook the food? Do you know anything about food safety? Is it prepackaged food? Is it a food truck? Um, so there's all sorts of other questions that come along, and we're just kind of like, would this be useful to try to integrate more of that into Mazévo, or should we just leave it alone? So,
Yeah.
any thoughts on trying to help the risk management folks out? Any? So,
Few comments rolling in here. Um,
okay. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I haven't read the full comments yet, but I can tell by the length of them, there might be some passion around this this topic here, which is
Yeah.
good. So, yeah, I think it's sounding like there's a need for something like this. But that's going to be something we're going to be looking at a little bit more in this upcoming year is like, okay, what is that need really? How can Mazévo play a part in assisting with that? And so we appreciate the feedback here. Um, one thing too, when we're done with this, we talked about, depending on how this call goes today and everything, we may want to reach out to some of you afterwards and, maybe pick your brain a little bit more about some of these. We thought too, do we maybe set up kind of a little um, group that could get together and talk about some of these topics. Outlook is one that sometimes has passion. Maybe this one here, I'm not sure, but yeah, if you're interested in any of that, let us know, or we may just reach out to you and see if we could set something like that up. But all right, that was the approval one there. Next area we're going to focus on for next year, academics. So those of you in a university environment, um, a lot of times you have both event space and you have classroom space that you manage. And if you are managing both of them, Mazévo has two ways to help you with managing your classroom space. One way is you can import course information from your student information system. So you can just bring in when all those classes are meeting, and then you can schedule your events around them. That's something that's just standard with Mazévo. If you're not using it already and you're curious about it or you want to start using it, just let us know. We'll turn it on for you, and you can use that. The second method is where your registrar jumps on board and they are like, hey, we would really like a tool to help us with scheduling all of our classes into the right classroom. Can you help us with that? Mazévo has tools to do exactly that, where we can tie in directly to the student information system. It's a two-way sync gets set up, and then we have an optimizer tool that can help the registrar with scheduling hundreds of classes into classrooms in a very short period of time. It kind of just runs through in an automated way and tries to make sure every class ends up in the right classroom that's appropriate for the class. So we do that as well. And we are getting more and more of our customers in higher ed are coming online with those academic tools, doing that two-way sync and the optimizer and things like that. So we're adding some more tools and features for them I don't know if Dean, if you want to mention what a couple of those are.
Short of just saying we're just going to make some just general enhancements to that two-way integration to handle some of these bigger campuses and things like that is probably where I'd leave it, so just continued improvement on that. So
Yeah. Yeah. Tracy just asked a question. Does it update on the SIS side? Yes, Tracy, it does. So that integration, that two-way integration that I'm talking about with the student information system, that does update there. So once you've scheduled all of your classes in Mazévo into the right classroom, the SIS gets updated for you. So it keeps it in sync that way. Um, right. Another theme that is always up there for us, this is every year, this isn't, but it's more of a behind the scenes thing, is performance. We always want to make sure that Mazévo is performing adequately. It's not something where you're frustrated, you're sitting there, you're looking at the little spinning wheel, waiting for, your reservation to get done or for a report to come up or something like that. So, how's everybody feeling about the performance of Mazévo? We monitor it on the back end. Devin can attest. He's got all kinds of charts and graphs and everything that's running our servers and making sure everything looks good. But that's not the whole story, right? I mean, it's like we can see that things are running well on our side, on the server side, but where it really matters is what that feels like on your side. So, we'd love to hear, is anybody, are you pretty happy with the performance? Are you ever running into that spinning wheel where you just feel like you're sitting there all the time and it's just slow? If you are, let us know. And when you let us know that kind of stuff, the more specific you are, the better. It's we can't do a lot when you just say, yeah, the system's slow. It's like, we can't do much with that. But when you say, when I go here and I click this, or when I run this report, or when I do this thing, I'm always, seeing the wheel, or I have to wait a long time. That's helpful because then we can go try to hunt that down. So let us know in the chat there if you have any feedback. I was also going to ask about reporting. Some of you have very, what I would call high volume operations where you do a ton of bookings every single day. And so, if you just, if you just go and run a report for a few months, that's a lot of data it's bringing back. And so what's performance like? Are you pretty happy with that? Is it, anything? It's all things that we keep an eye on, and we're going to be continuing to focus on this next year, but any feedback there would be awesome. All right, and related to performance is old data in the system. Now, if you go back to when you purchased Mazévo, and some of you that's relatively recently, others that might be a few years, one of the things you may or may not remember on there is when we sell Mazévo, we've always put on there that Mazévo will store up to 3 years of event history for you and 3 past years. So it'll store all your future stuff and then up to 3 years of past history. Now, we've never really done anything with enforcing that policy, but we've put it out there since day one because that all comes down to, there's a few reasons for that, but it's mainly around performance as one. The more old data you keep in any system, just the more processing power it's going to take to maintain that. So that's one. But also it involves other things like data accuracy and reliability. Those of you that have been using the same scheduling system for many years can probably attest to, and we see this all the time from folks that have switched over from EMS. If you've got 10 years of old event data in there, you've got 10 years of old contacts, old rooms, old resources, old notes, things that aren't used anymore, but they're still in your system. You still got to look at them. You're still reporting on them, all of that kind of stuff. So part of that policy around 3 years of old data is encouraging you to keep, good data habits that way. So it also simplifies things, again, going with our theme of simplicity, keeping that user experience simplified, bringing on those new users, not having to look through all that old information. It's also these days, it's also a security thing. It's also, if you've got 10 years of old student contact information in your system, your IT department's probably not going to be real excited about that, right? So it's just like we want to encourage good data habits with our 3-year policy. So we're taking steps to encourage you to do that. We're not, it is your data at the end of the day. So we're walking a fine line here. We don't want to ever feel like we're forcing you to delete things that you don't want to delete. But on the other hand, there's kind of a limit there. We can't just let you hold on to things indefinitely unless, maybe it's a conscious decision and maybe you're okay with paying a little bit to hold on to that old data because you really want it in your active system. We also we give you ways to export your data anytime you want. So if you want to just keep some of that old stuff offline in spreadsheets or something like that for when you need to refer back to them, you can do that. So you do have those tools today, but we've started building tools into Mazévo to make that process easier. And we're going to start doing more this next year around, getting you to delete, anything older than 3 years and things like that. So just wanted to bring that up that is coming. I don't know if that makes anybody nervous or if you're like, oh, I need 5 years of data or 8 years or whatever it is. But that's where we're coming from on this and wanted to bring this up today and let us know what you think, how you feel about this, because it's something that's coming. So, Dean, do you have anything you want to add there?
Yeah, I kind of want to show everybody, we have some tools in there today that would allow you to kind of control your own destiny with cleaning up. So again, I'm logged in here as an administrator. So you can come up and under here and then delete old events. And this is actually a way that you can come in and delete old data. And if you start with this, all you're going to do, we ask you delete everything prior to a certain date. We're going to delete the events, the bookings, courses, resources. So you can try this. You could go back, 2018 and get rid of everything in 2018 if you wanted to. Well, when you put one of these in here, let's just say I want to do 01, 2020, 4, and I think this is it's gonna give me a message. Um, I can only we don't let you come up real close, so you can't really screw this up. So we're not going to let you delete before 2023. The other thing would happen is you put in this request to delete data, and we're going to let it sit there for a week. So it give you a chance to have some second thoughts. So you could, if you put in a request to delete data, you can turn right around and come back in here and say, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to leave it. So just to kind of give you a second chance to get out of that. Again, we are not going to let you delete yesterday's data. It's got to be at least a year old. And this is the first part of the data cleanup is where you would start with that right there. Once you've deleted your old bookings and events, you can then go into settings. And I don't know whether everybody knows this, but we did this earlier this last year. If I go into rooms, resources, organizations, contacts all have this cleanup tool here. And it would actually come up and initially show you, here's all of the rooms that you can delete. So again, if you added a room yesterday and then never used it, right, in the last 24 hours, right, I'm just making that example, we're not going to let you delete a brand new room that you entered. So the room's got to be in your system for a year and it can't have any bookings. But this is a way you can go in and we're showing you how many bookings that room has, what the first one and the last one was. The first and last is more useful when you say, show me all of my space. And so this is just a great little tool. Room by room, you're seeing the room usage for all of time. So this Colton 15, 741 bookings, first one in 22, last one this Friday. So it just kind of gives you some statistics about that. Now notice there's no checkbox there. So I can't accidentally delete that. But when you would use these tools in conjunction with that first one, delete your old events first, and then come over and see if you can clean up rooms and resources and organizations and contacts. So the tools are there. It's just, it's probably the last thing on your mind. Here's what we hear. Somebody wants to go in, let's say they're licensed for 100 rooms, and they try to add number 101, and it says you're not licensed for 101 rooms. And then they look at their list of rooms and go, oh, I want to delete Colton 106. I don't use that anymore. Well, it's not going to let you delete it because it's been referenced on a booking. And so there's this referential integrity that we're trying to, if you've booked that, you can't delete the room because it's been used somewhere, at some point in time. And so that's the whole concept of this data cleanup that we're trying to talk about, is if you got in the habit of kind of cleaning up some of that old stuff, it would allow you to make some changes to organizations, rooms, contacts, resources. It just keeps your data clean. So anyway, enough of that. So.
All right. So we've made it through our list here today, at least the stuff that we had. Now, there's probably a few things, or maybe there are a few things that we didn't mention today that you're like, oh, I was hoping you'd talk about this, or what about that? Let us know what those are. If you have anything that you think we missed or would like us to consider, please do let us know. Put it in the chat, reach out to us. You can always send us an email anytime something comes up. If you're like me, it's like you think of things maybe quite often, but unless you take the time to like write it down or send a quick email or something, it's gone before you know it and you forget what it is. So I would just encourage you, if you do think of something like that, write it down, send us an email, whatever it is. We're happy to at least consider those things there. So anyways, I hope this has been helpful for folks. And please do let us know what you thought here. I don't know if I see somebody put test environment in there. So yeah, let us know what these things are, and Derek, I mean, a test environment, we'd be interested to know, what do you want to do with that? How would you use it? That kind of thing there. But yeah, I mean, anything, we're open, anything that you have there that you're curious about or would like to see in the system, we'd love to hear it. So, all right. Anybody else have anything to add?
Got nothing.
All right. All right. Well, again, thank you all so much. I hope everybody has a great holiday season here. We appreciate your participation today. This has been great, and look forward to talking to you again here soon. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.